In the vast and mighty kingdom of Babylon, under the rule of King Darius, there lived a man named Daniel. He was an extraordinary man, wise, faithful, and unwavering in his devotion to the God of Israel. Daniel had been brought to Babylon as a young captive during the reign of King Nebuchadnezzar, and despite the trials he faced, his faith had never wavered. Now, many years later, in the reign of King Darius, Daniel had risen to a position of great influence within the kingdom. King Darius, who was a just ruler, recognized Daniel's remarkable abilities. He had been appointed as one of 3 governors to oversee the kingdom, but Daniel's wisdom and leadership abilities set him apart. The king was so impressed by Daniel that he was considering elevating him above all the other leaders in the land, making him second in command over the entire kingdom. But not everyone was happy about Daniel's success.
We must deal with Daniel.
He stands in our way.
Indeed.
There were many high-ranking officials, governors and satraps.
He is too close to the king.
They envied his favor with the king and feared the loss of their own positions and power. These officials began to plot against Daniel, seeking to find a way to bring him down and tarnish his reputation. They knew that Daniel was a man of integrity, a man who would never compromise his beliefs or his commitment to the God of Israel. So they devised a plan that would trap him. They went to King Darius and flattered him, saying, "King Darius, live forever."
Your Majesty, this alliance will secure our borders and bring prosperity to our people.
No one in the kingdom may pray to any god or man except to you, O king. Anyone who disobeys this decree will be thrown into the den of lions. The king, feeling flattered and uplifted by their praise, agreed to the plan without fully realizing the trap that was being set for Daniel. The decree was signed and it became law. It was a law that could not be revoked. For in the kingdom of Babylon, once a law was made by the king, it was binding and unchangeable. When Daniel heard about the royal decree, he knew the danger he was in. But his faith in God was stronger than his fear of the law. Daniel had always been a man of prayer, and he would not allow any earthly decree to silence his devotion to the God of Israel. So as he had done every day, Daniel went to his upper room, opened the windows facing Jerusalem, and knelt down to pray, giving thanks to God 3 times a day. His enemies, knowing exactly what Daniel would do, were waiting for this moment. They watched from a distance as Daniel knelt in prayer, defying the king's command. They immediately ran to the king and accused Daniel, saying, "King Darius, have you not signed a decree that anyone who prays to any god or man, except to you, will be thrown into the den of lions?" The king, realizing that Daniel was the man they had set up as a target, was deeply distressed. He valued Daniel highly and did not want to see him harmed. But the law was clear, and the king was bound by it. He spent the entire day trying to find a way to save Daniel, but there was no loophole in the law. As the day turned to evening, the officials pressed the matter, saying, "King Darius, you must fulfill the law. There is no excuse." With a heavy heart, King Darius gave the command, and Daniel was seized and thrown into the den of lions. Before he was cast into the den, the king looked at him with sorrow in his eyes and said, "Daniel, may your God, whom you serve continually, rescue you." The entrance to the den was sealed with a large stone, and the king returned to his palace. But he could not sleep. All through the night the king was restless, filled with anxiety and fear for Daniel. He could not eat, nor could he be entertained. His heart was heavy, knowing that the man he trusted so deeply was in the jaws of certain death. As soon as the first light of dawn broke, the king rushed to the den. He approached the sealed entrance, his voice trembling with hope. "Daniel," he called out, "servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" For a moment there was silence, and then, to the king's astonishment, a voice responded from the den. It was the voice of Daniel. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, O king." The king was overwhelmed with joy and relief. He immediately ordered that Daniel be lifted from the den. And when Daniel was brought up, there was not a scratch on him, not a single mark of injury, for he had trusted in his God. King Darius, astonished at the miraculous deliverance of Daniel, was filled with gratitude. He issued a new decree, one that proclaimed the greatness of Daniel's God to all the people of the kingdom. He said, "I issue a decree that in every part of my kingdom, people must fear and reverence the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." From that day forward, Daniel prospered in the reign of King Darius, and his faith became a beacon to the people of the kingdom. His trust in God was a testimony to the power of faith, and his deliverance from the lion's den became a story that would be told for generations to come. As the king gazed upon Daniel, who had been miraculously preserved from the lions, his heart was filled with awe. He had just witnessed the power of the living God in a way that defied all human understanding. The sight of Daniel emerging from the lion's den, untouched and unscathed, filled him with a profound reverence for the God Daniel served. King Darius could not contain his amazement. He had been so distraught the night before, worried that Daniel would meet a tragic end. But now, in the light of day, he could see that Daniel's faith had not been in vain. The king's heart swelled with gratitude as he recognized that the God of Daniel was no ordinary deity. He was a God who answered prayer, a God who protected his faithful servants even in the most dire of circumstances. With a trembling hand, the king ordered the stone that sealed the den to be rolled away. As it slowly shifted, revealing Daniel standing unharmed, the king's joy was unmistakable. He called for Daniel to be brought to the surface, and when Daniel emerged, there was not a single scratch on him. The lions, ferocious as they were, had been rendered harmless by the power of God. "Daniel," King Darius said, his voice full of emotion, "you have been delivered by the hand of the Almighty. It is clear that your God is not like the gods of the world, but a living, powerful God who protects and saves." The king's decree, which had sentenced Daniel to the lion's den, was now undone by the very miracle that had saved the prophet. King Darius was quick to act. He ordered that Daniel be taken out of the den, and with great reverence, he called for a new law to be enacted, one that would honor the God of Israel. In a public ceremony, King Darius made a declaration to his kingdom, saying, "I issue a new decree throughout my entire realm. Let all people, from every province and every nation, tremble before the God of Daniel. He is the living God, and he endures forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed. His dominion will never end. He rescues and saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. It is he who delivered his servant Daniel from the mouth of the lions." The king's decree was passed swiftly, and it was declared that every man and woman in the kingdom should honor the God of Daniel, acknowledging his greatness and power. The entire empire of Babylon was called to reverence the God who had demonstrated his unmatched authority over life and death. While King Darius's decree commanded reverence for the God of Daniel, it also spoke to the broader truth that all who placed their trust in the Lord would find deliverance. In Daniel's case, his trust in God had shielded him from the lions, and his faith had become a testimony that would resonate throughout the ages. Daniel's God was not a God who abandoned his people, even in the most challenging moments. His God was one who would save, protect, and deliver. As the news of Daniel's miraculous survival spread throughout the kingdom, many were drawn to the truth of his God. People from every corner of Babylon marveled at the miracle and came to understand that the God of Israel was the only true God. The once powerful officials who had plotted against Daniel were now silenced, their schemes exposed for what they truly were: empty attempts to undermine the power of the living God. Meanwhile, the enemies of Daniel who had accused him were not left unpunished. The king, now fully aware of the treachery behind their actions, ordered that they be thrown into the same den of lions from which Daniel had been rescued. But unlike Daniel, these men were not delivered by the hand of God. The lions, hungry and vicious, quickly overpowered them, and they met their end in the den. King Darius, in a final act of justice, ensured that those who sought to harm the faithful servant of God would face the consequences of their deceit. The king's actions were seen as a moment of divine justice, where the wicked were punished and the righteous were vindicated. Daniel's life was a powerful testimony to the kingdom and to the world that faith in the true God would never be in vain. His deliverance from the lions was a sign that God was not only a God of power, but a God of justice, mercy, and protection. As for Daniel, his faith was only strengthened by the trial he had faced. The God who had saved him from the lion's den continued to guide him, and he prospered under King Darius's reign. Daniel's life remained a beacon of hope, a living testimony to the power of prayer and the faithfulness of God. Years later, long after Daniel had passed from this world, the story of his miraculous deliverance would continue to inspire generations. People would speak of the man who trusted in God and was saved from certain death, a man whose unwavering faith changed the course of a kingdom. The story of Daniel and the lion's den would become a symbol of God's power to protect his people, a reminder that no trial is too great for those who trust in him. The book of Daniel, which recounts this incredible story, stands as a reminder to believers everywhere that, no matter the odds or the dangers, God is always with his faithful servants. Just as he delivered Daniel from the lion's den, he will deliver those who place their trust in him, for he is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the story, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more awesome content, and don't forget to share it with your friends. See you next time. Sparkles.